Alright, what's going on, y'all? So this is officially week 1 of my new off-season bulk. So I'm going to lay out my cycle, my diet, my training for the next 16 weeks. I'm going to be running this bulk for the next 16 weeks. At the end of the 16 weeks, I'm going to assess where I'm sitting. If I'm in a good spot to go into a prep, to do an earlier show in 2023 to hopefully qualify for the 23 Olympia, I'll do that. If not, I'll take another growth period and then do a later show in 2023 to hopefully qualify for the 2023 Olympia. But right now, it's all about packing on as much size as possible. This is gonna be my biggest bulk by far, so I'm excited to lay out my cycle for you guys, the training and the diet that I'm gonna be using for the next 16 weeks. So before I lay out my cycle, my diet, my training for you guys, let me tell you what I've been doing for the last few months. So I've essentially been in a maintenance period, still improving, but really in a maintenance period over the last few months. PED wise, I've only been on sports TRT, so it's a bit higher than regular TRT. I've been running 250 milligrams of test E per week, but my blood work just came back. It came back perfect, so we're in a good spot to launch into this bulk. I've been eating right about 2,800 to 3,000 calories per day, 6 clean meals per day, and I've been allowing myself to have about 2 to 3 cheat meals per week. That's a lot more than I actually have when I'm actually in a full-on bulk. When I'm in a maintenance period, I allow myself to be a bit more flexible. It's really easy to kind of maintain that weight. But when I go into a bulk and I'm eating a lot more, one, I want to stay as lean as possible for as long as possible to make the muscle gaining process more efficient. But then B, it's a lot harder to get cheat meals in when you're already, stuffed to the brim. So I've been relaxed that way. Training has stayed right about the same as what I've discussed with you guys for, frankly, about the last 2 years now. The split I've been running has been push-pull, legs, rest, push-pull, arms, legs, rest, repeat. So hitting everything in a 9-day period or twice in a 9-day period. And I've been slowly improving with that. But I do have my numbers all locked in, ready to launch into this bulk. Right now I'm sitting at right about 230, 5'8.5", and this is where I've been sitting for the last couple weeks. So I've got a good baseline rolling into this bulk. I'm still pretty lean, not super crispy like I just stepped off stage, but I still have a 6 to 8 pack. And we're in a good spot, still lean going into this. So first, let's go ahead and talk about the diet for this bulk. So for the diet for the bulk, I'm on week 1 right now. I'm on 3,900 calories per day. It's a high carb, high protein, and low fat diet. This is what I like. I've talked in other videos about why I prefer high carb and low fat versus moderate fat or even high fat diets. It's what works out really, really well for me, but I've seen this work well for my clients and many other people. Most of the pro bodybuilders I know follow a high carb diet. So right now my macros are right about 500 carb, 56 fat, and 348 protein. It's 6 clean meals a day, and then right now I'm doing about 1 cheat meal per week. This might get upped if I have a weight stall, anything like that. But we're still at a low-ish calorie range at 3,900, so we're going to be able to keep bumping up the calories week after week after week until we have a huge stall, and then it gets to where you're really, really forcing down food. But I don't see that happening until we get well over 5,000 calories per day. So we're just easing into the bulk right now, and then in a few weeks we'll see where we're sitting. Coming up here soon, I'll do a full video on full day of eating, showing you guys the exact meals I'm eating, meals 1 through 6. But just to kind of lay it out for you guys, meal 1 is an oats and eggs meal. Meal 2 is chicken and rice. Meal 3 is a cream of rice and chicken. Meal 4 is intra and post workout, so that's a shake. Either cereal and a bagel. Meal 5 is usually a red meat, so like steak or ground beef and rice. And then meal 6 is either eggs or a protein shake before bed. I'll lay out the specifics in upcoming videos, but that's really the framework of how I like to have my meals set up. And then it's just really increasing many times the carb amounts as we go further into off season. Making sure to monitor your health markers like blood glucose and your blood pressure, all of that. But right now everything's looking perfect, so that's how we're going to roll with it. Upcoming. Training wise, so training staying the same, guys. So I hear all the time people saying you need to confuse the muscle. I followed this 8-week plan. What 8-week plan should I follow now? I did that back in the day. Back when I really got heavily into bodybuilding in college, I remember I followed Steve Cook's, what was it called? Big Guy on Campus or something like that. I followed that for a while, and then I switched over to a Jay Cutler one. I was constantly changing up training plans. One, I thought that was great back then, and I do suggest this for the younger lifters out there because you do learn different training styles. You'll, go with high volume, then you might do high intensity one. You'll find out what you really, really connect with. But I'm a big believer in choosing the split you like based off of what you need work on and the frequency, the intensity, the volume of that. But then B, choosing the movements that you really, really connect with and stick with them for a long period of time. Essentially, you want to stick with them until you stop progressing on them. Until you essentially have a sticky point with the movement. You don't really need to swap things out. And this is where, if you're really tracking in your logbook, you should be progressing week after week after week. And you can do that with the same movements. I've been running essentially the same split, or at least a form of the same split for the last 2 years now with 90% of the same movements. I even have the Raw Intensity Mass Gainer ebook down below. That uses the same training I've been doing essentially for the last 2 years and have been growing like a weed on it. Me sticking with the same training has given me a lot greater results than me changing up training every 8 to 16 weeks or so. This whole confuse the muscle thing, you can confuse the muscle by essentially progressing on your lifts, adding in intensity extenders like drop sets, rest pause sets, all of that. You don't necessarily need to just completely change up your whole routine. So my routine right now, the split is push, pull, legs, rest, push, pull, arms, legs, rest, repeat. So I'm hitting everything twice in a 9-day period. I have all my movement numbers locked in. So me in my logbook, I know to look back at the last, let's say I'm on push A. If I'm on push A today, I'm going to look back at last week's push A and try to essentially progress from there, whether that's adding in a rep, adding in an intensity extender, or adding weight. But progressing week after week after week is how you continually get bigger and bigger and bigger and get stronger at the same time. So now I know you guys want to hear about the cycle. So first off, I have to go out and say, this is a cycle that has worked well for me in the past. I'm doing this cycle based off of things that I know I respond well to and that I have grown with really, really well in the past. This is not somewhere you should start if you're a beginner. This is a pretty, at least intermediate, if not advanced cycle. But this is what I'll be running. So I'm going to be running 600 milligrams of test E per week. I've done 600 once in the past, but it wasn't a very long period of time. So this is going to be my longest, highest amount of test, but that's at 600 milligrams per week of test E. I've got 400 milligrams per week of NPP. You guys know I love NPP. Test and NPP is like my bread and butter for bulking. You don't need very much. You will get stronger from the NPP, and as long as you are doing high intensity bodybuilding and you're tracking your numbers and you're progressing week after week, NPP is going to be what really gives you a lot of strength for that, and then the test is just going to add on that size. Then I've got 400 milligrams of Primo per week, and then I've got 25 milligrams a day of Proviron. That's an oral. It's a very, very light oral. It's very mild. This isn't really to add on a lot of size. It's really to help keep away some of the negative side effects of a little bit of higher test. And then I am going to be running 4 IUs a day of growth hormone. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing 600 milligrams of test E, 400 of MPP, 400 of Primo, 25 milligrams of Proviron, and then 4 IUs of growth. So I am very excited to see how we're looking at the end of the 16 weeks. Like I said, this is my biggest blast by far, at least for the off season. But I do know based off of how at least smaller amounts of the same compounds, what it's done for me in the past. I'm very excited to see where we go from here. Like I said, I'm at 230 right now. I think if we could push to 240, 245 at the end of the 16 weeks and still be at least somewhat clean, still have, some abs, all of that, I'm going to be very, very happy. But I'm going to keep you guys posted through this entire bulk. I'm going to be very transparent with you all. That's something that I see that is still lacking to this day. A lot of people, for whatever reason, just aren't very upfront with this stuff. I'm going to be as transparent with you guys as possible. So if you've got any questions, anything like that, definitely drop them down in the comments down below. But if you guys enjoyed this, please go ahead and smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Be happy, be positive, be powerful. Have a great rest of your day.